Hello there, Evie here. Right, I need or want your help to specify and put together a permanent editing system for the channel. Now, I have got a couple of components which I'll go over in a little bit, and I will let you know exactly how I'm going to be using the permanent editing system and the test system to improve things towards, or once this computer has been constructed, to make things on the channel a bit more streamlined, more efficient, and that sort of thing. But first things first, a huge thank you to anybody who's looking around for components for me, who want to suggest any builds and setups that would be really efficient in terms of the cost, so very cost effective, have a great price to performance, that sort of thing. A huge thank you to you guys, and if you want to put your suggestions towards me, then you can go, and I'll put a little reminder up there every now and then, you can go over to Facebook or Discord. Those two will be the best places, but you can also suggest general comments about suggestions in the comment section below this video. That's not generally the best place though to leave links, or to PC Part Picker links, or Google Docs and spreadsheets, because those comments generally get thrown into the junk folder and I don't get reminded all the time that they're there, so I might not pick them up. So again, if you want to suggest things with links and that sort of stuff, please go to Discord in the video description, or go over to Facebook and let me know in a private message or publicly on there, and I'll pick it up somehow. So let's get into what I need this for, or what I'm going to be using it for. So obviously video editing for the channel, that makes sense. Now the program I use for video editing right now, and I will be using for the foreseeable future, is Adobe Elements 14 specifically. Now the reason I'm using that is because I'm a cheapskate, or rather I don't want to spend excess amounts of money on Adobe Premiere Pro for £20 per month when I can spend £50 for Premiere Elements with Photoshop Elements and pretty much run the channel completely fine for the last 2 years. I don't need complex editing formats or styles. I'm not that talented behind the camera or in front of the camera or on an editing system or editing program, so frankly Premiere Elements is all I need. I spent £50 on it to begin with, and I haven't spent £20 per month for the last 2 years, so you do the maths and see how many hundreds of pounds I've saved, especially when it comes to like After Effects and stuff for people who are really good at what they do. I just don't need that stuff right now. Maybe in the future, but not now. So that's the program I use, and in terms of resources it uses a lot of CPU power, it uses a lot of RAM, and it can use GPU, but it only really uses it for general playback and that sort of stuff, nothing too intensive. You never see I never see the GPU peak to 100% using a 1070, so yeah, it generally hits about 25, maybe 30% usage in that regard. So again, something to keep in mind. It uses a lot of CPU, and it uses the CPU purely for rendering. It doesn't use a GPU for rendering at all. So really the target specification, which I'll put up there, is CPU power, get the horsepower on the CPU, storage and RAM, and a mild amount of GPU, but nothing to prioritize. So in terms of what I've got, oh yeah, there's one thing I should probably mention. In terms of price that I want to spend based on, in addition to what I've got, or any suggestions you have, replacing some of the components I have, such as selling the processor I've got spare to get a better one, that sort of stuff, I only really want to spend between £400 and £500 for the rest of what I have, or what I need. I've got a load of stuff, and if you suggest getting rid of some of it to get other better stuff, then please do so in your suggestion on Discord, Facebook, or in the comments. So in terms of stuff I've got that you can use to formulate some of your suggestions for a better price to performance situation or not, it's up to you. I have an i7-6700K spare. I've been using two. I had one initially, and then I bought a second one so I could have, say, 2 half systems around the room. So if I needed to perhaps put an email together on that system, or I just needed to do some editing halfway through a review, then I had the capability of, spending 5 minutes to put it together and get something done. Now, the reason I chose the 6700K again is because I could use either of those two chips or processors to formulate testing. I tested them to work out if they're comparable enough, and they were very close in terms of thermal performance and real-time performance or graphical stuff like that, so I've deemed it okay. So that's why I have that one, and you can use that for your suggestions, or you can tell me, sell that, get this second-hand Ryzen or second-hand i7, whatever, and that's up to you. In terms of drives, I have got a lot of drives already, and I only really need an additional one. I have got, and I recently purchased, an Intel 660p 2TB M.2 NVMe drive, which can do 1800 megabytes read and write in some circumstances, but it's a very fast drive, and overall it is much faster than both the boot drive I'm currently using, which is a Samsung 840 Evo, I think, and the scratch disk I'm using, which is a Kingston V300 SSD, 240 gigs, but it's blazing fast compared to those, so it should be, you know, pretty solid. Other drives I already have a 2TB hard disk drive for YouTube archiving, which I will need a YouTube archive drive, and I also have a 2TB drive spare, which I'm not using right now, which is for personal files, or which I will use for personal files and storage. But I do need one of the major suggestions I need from you guys is a large hard disk drive for backup of all the systems, backup of this system, the editing system, and the testing system. It needs to be a minimum of 6 TB. It can be an internal drive or external drive in an enclosure. It can be specific to backup or not, but it has to be a minimum of 6 TB, and you know, you can go up to something like 10 TB. I know Gaming Tech UK on the Discord was suggesting a really awesome 10 TB WD system, I think, external enclosure. So again, suggestions like that would be fantastic. And in terms of the power supply unit, I've got a spare 750 watt bronze NEX 750B EVGA power supply unit, 160mm deep, so I've already got that covered. But again, if you say sell that for £10 and buy this one instead, I'm more than happy to take those suggestions. It's not like I will only pick one person's build and then just build that entirely. I'll probably look at all the suggestions and make some sort of really awesome sort of combination system of all of those, a hybrid system of all your suggestions, and run with that. But any suggestions would be fantastic. So the things I'm definitely missing from the target system that I need, and mixing together the stuff I have already got, I definitely need a motherboard. Now in terms of form factor, we can go for micro ATX, we can go for ATX, not mini ITX, because I really want to have some more future expandability options. So I definitely need some sort of motherboard. It ideally would have an M.2 drive with 4 PCI Express lanes. I don't know a huge amount of M.2 drives. M.2 slot. I don't know if there's, you know, a by one lane version of that. I would have thought not. But yeah, so I need something like that. I mean, maybe for SATA or something. Maybe for a SATA drive, like an M SATA or something. I don't know. But yeah, but the M.2 NVMe drive needs 4 PCI Express lanes in an M.2 slot to work, so that would be great. If the motherboard you find for a great deal doesn't have that, then you can, you know, perhaps suggest an adapter. More on that in a second. In terms of RAM, I have got RAM, but I need more. I need to maintain that RAM for the testing system. But in terms of RAM suggestions, I need at least 16 terabytes. I need 16 gigs of RAM, and I look to upgrade to 32. I don't think I can afford to straight out get 32 gigs of RAM, and I would like to see how I cope with 16 first to see if I even need to spend that. I have ran an editing system, a mini ITX system, during mini ITX testing, and I coped with 16 gigs of RAM. Generally, I use about 21 of the 24 gigabytes I have, and I'm not sure if I really need more than that. So we'll see how 16 goes, but it would be a good idea for your motherboard suggestion on that point to get 4 slots over 2, so I'm going to be running at least dual channel, and then I can add another dual channel kit further down the line. So graphics card wise, as I said earlier on, I don't really need a really high performance graphics card. I just need a general playback. Let's say if we aim for something that can play a AAA game at something like medium graphics settings at 45 to 60 frames a second at 1080p, that's the kind of ballpark figure we're looking at. Really what I'm doing with my videos is creating some sort of video file that can run at 1080p at 60 frames a second, you know, max graphics settings, but you know what I mean. So if we aim for something like that, then that should be good enough for playback. And if every now and then I think, I've had enough tonight, I'm too tired, I'm just going to play a game and then head to bed, then, you know, that would be nice to run off. But again, not a priority for gaming, just for the general playback in the editor. Again, I've seen about 25 to 30% usage on the graphics card when I've been doing playback, and that's a 1070. So, you know, do with that what you want. You could also recommend an APU with something like a Ryzen system. Do they classify as APUs anymore? It's an APU definitely, but iGPU is what I was thinking. Is that the more Intel-based name of it? I don't know. But anyway, so you could recommend that if it's up to snuff, if you can, you know, guarantee or verify that it's up to some sort of good playback quality or medium graphics, like I said. CPU cooler wise, I don't really need a CPU cooler. I've reviewed plenty and I've still got a few to sell still, so I can just use one of those and that won't cost me any additional money, which is great. I'll just suit whatever CPU cooler will suit the build which you suggest. I've got a few that can support AM4 and, you know, the 1151 LGA sockets, so that's not much of a problem. And finally, I think case wise. Now, case-wise, I have got cases around, but here's where I'm throwing a curveball into the mix, or where Silverstone is throwing a curveball into the mix. They are actually willing to support me on this build. They did ask me the other day if you don't have to necessarily do reviews of products. If you have a build coming up, then we'd like to throw something your way if you need it. So if you want to suggest something from Silverstone, like an M.2 adapter, which is actually interesting. If you go onto the Silverstone website and check out all of the different products they supply, they've got a lot of adapters for PCI Express lanes, all sorts of stuff. They got 3.5-inch to M.2 NVMe form factor bays which you can use, which is just absolutely nuts. So they've got all sorts of crazy stuff on there which you don't generally pick up on PC Part Picker. So if you want to suggest anything like small components like that would help the build, or any case that they do that will help the build, I know I've seen some pretty cool ones. The LDO1 is something I'm looking to review in the nearish future, and that looks really nice, but it is full tempered glass all over the place, which might not be ideal for throwing around the room where I have to, or chucking in the car for various reasons, you know, little travels here and there. So maybe something that's more steel based, maybe some tempered glass, but that's completely up to you. Suggest what you like. You could throw a few suggestions for motherboards, for anything like that, cases and stuff, if you want to. But yeah, go check out the Silverstone website if you want to do that sort of thing. But I recommend if you're going for some sort of case suggestion, it might be worth going to something like PC Part Picker, going to their cases section, filtering by the Silverstone brand, and then going for the spec list and the filtering options. I found the PC Part Picker filtering set to be a little bit more malleable than the Silverstone one, a little bit more improved, more optimized. The Silverstone one seems to be quite rigid and strict, so if you want to suggest, say, I want to find a case with 3 3.5-inch drive slots and 2 2.5-inch drive slots, it won't show you ones which have a minimum of that. It'll show you exactly that, so that might not be so good. But anyway, I think that's pretty much that. I almost completely forgot why we're actually doing this whole build. So the reason for doing this build is so I can get Amy on board to help me out with the channel. Amy is my girlfriend. We've been going out. We've been together for the last 7 years. I say going out. It's not really going out, I think, after 7 years. But anyway, so I'll show her a quick clip, or show you guys a quick clip of her being shy in the painting video of this room. This room used to be yellow if you guys are new to the channel, and now it's grey, which looks far better for videos, but I kind of preferred the thumbnails that I could make with the yellow background. It's much more colourful. The benefit to bringing Amy on board to help me out is, well, first and foremost, we get to spend a bit more time together. Like I say, we've been together for 7 years, and we only spend 2 nights together in the week because I'm busy with work and this, and she's got her work and all that sort of stuff to deal with. So, you know, we don't live in the same building, we don't live in the same house, so, you know, that's a bit of a shame right now. But we are looking to potentially find a place together at some point in the future, but you know how things are, trying to get mortgages and stuff. But anyway, so basically, bringing her onto the channel, she'll be able to do stuff like testing cases and AIOs and CPU coolers and anything that I come to test. She can spend the time doing that. To give you a bit of an indication of how long it takes me to do testing, for the all-in-one liquid cooler review of the TD02 RGB Silverstone CPU cooler, it took me, along with the other 4 radiators that I had to test to get some comparative data, each run took me about 50 minutes with Prime 95 and all of the other tests to do, because you've got to, you know, get everything to ambient temperature, do the test to get it up to testing temperature, log down the data, let it cool down, then go back and forth constantly across the graph and get yourself all that data. So 50 minutes per run, 3 runs per device, or 3 runs per component, so that can take about 2.5 hours per component to do the testing, which is obviously a huge amount of time. So while she's doing that kind of testing for me, I can do stuff like take all of the raw footage that I take before we start doing testing, and I can do the editing, I can do the script, I can do the narration, I can do other things in the background, which I'll discuss in a second, but that's a huge time saving there. So she can also do stuff like support the social media sides of the channel, and Patreon. Really importantly, Patreon. I don't support my patrons of the AV Techie channel anywhere near as much as I should do, and I'm hoping with this extra time potentially that I gain from doing this, at least we'll be able to spend more time together. But with any luck, with all this time savings, I should be able to do more for the channel within the same time frame that I would be posting videos anyway. So I'll be able to do things like small snapshots of what's coming up in videos, you know, little problems I encounter, just little snapshots of general review stuff, upcoming stuff. I'll be able to post all of that to all the guys supporting me on Patreon, and hopefully give them more for their money. I don't think I've posted on there for the last, like, well, I did post there yesterday, but I haven't posted on there prior to then for at least a month, and that is frankly criminal. Taking some people's money to give them no extra value for the experience of the channel is just, you know, criminal in my eyes. I need to sort that out. I may in the future, perhaps, depending on how that goes, I will open up all the info to anybody who's donating anything or any amount, but I may in the future create tiers, so the people who donate some get some extra stuff, and the people who donate more get more extra stuff. But I will have to see how that goes. I'm not sure how to play that one, so we'll just fly by wire on that. But anyway, I promise you I'm not being forgetful on purpose. One thing I wanted to do is a little bit of a thank you, and this should come towards the end of the video, frankly, to all of you who are supportive of the channel generally, especially supportive in this regard. I want to give you something at least to show some appreciation. So here is a 1-minute very short montage of the upcoming DIY project, which still needs work, but just something to give you a little bit back for the efforts you're putting in. So thanks guys, and I hope you enjoy it. I think that's pretty much it. A huge thank you to you guys, anybody who's looking to put as much or little time as they can into supporting the channel by putting suggestions, saying whether you consider this platform or this processor or this graphics card, this secondhand units, this secondhand whatever. That's, you know, I'm hugely grateful for that. A huge thank you as well to Silverstone for sticking their neck out and supporting the channel in a way that doesn't directly give back to them. I mean, I know this system that they may support might be seen in the background here and there, and it will have a video made of it, but it's not as if it's going to be something that may be widely seen. So this is just a pretty cool thing for them to do, and it certainly helps me with regards to getting in components and stuff to do this thing. So a huge thank you to you guys again. Thanks for watching this one, and I hope that was clear enough. So I'll catch you in the next video, which may or may not be a review. There's something going on in the background right now that I may need to clarify, but I'll let you guys know when it comes to it. So cheers guys, catch you next time, bye bye.